Good afternoon, Black Hat. Thanks for coming. My name is Nicole Beckwith. I work for Cribl as the Senior Director of Security Engineering and Operations. Prior to this gig, I was with Kroger as the Director of Security Operations there. And this talk is a passion project of mine, something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. But since I've moved over to Cribl, I've been able to operationalize this and actually make it come to life. So I'm excited to share with all of you. So the one ask that I do have, I mean, there's not a whole lot of you here, but the one ask I do have is at the end of this, that you are cheering so loudly that the entire floor wants to know what the heck just happened, right? All right, let's make it happen. So you get me for 20 minutes. They bring us in and out. So if you have questions, I will stand outside so we can ask questions afterwards. So Apex. What is Apex? All right, it's not going to work for me. There we go. So Apex is a detection framework. It's not a product. It's not something that we're launching at Cribl yet, but it is a framework. Anybody can use it. So we're going to step through this. But this is based on the fact that AI has made us look at the pyramid of pain differently recently. And so we're moving those detections up the pyramid of pain. So basically, everybody's detection program right now sucks, right? Mine sucks, yours suck, it all sucks. We have to move up that pyramid. And so we're going to talk through how we make that happen. So why did I build this? Quite frankly, I got sick of everybody saying we need to cover the MITRE ATT&CK framework, better. We have to have bigger percentages. We need more detections in place. And with every, new attack that comes out, we're in a loop where we're saying, all right, we need a new detection for this. There's indicators of compromise that are coming out. We need, to plug these in, and we have to create a new detection for this. Well, that's great if you have the bandwidth to do that, right? And by the time you create the detection, most of the time you're already behind the curve. So we want to make sure that we're getting in front of that. And quite frankly, AI has just been changing things so fast. Adversaries have been moving more quickly. And so, we have to keep up with what the adversaries are doing. So these are some of the reasons why I decided that we needed a new framework to get ahead of this. All right, so I talked about the pyramid of pain. This is arguably the one image that our industry focuses on every single day. It's what all of our programs are built on. It's why we are trying to secure our businesses. But with AI, the whole bottom of the pyramid is on fire now, right? We've got polymorphic and metamorphic malware that are killing hash values every second. You've got phishing campaigns that are now custom to each individual attack and each individual person that they're conducting the attack on, or victim. And so you've got domains that are and URLs that are changing exponentially. And then you've got IP addresses that are rotating, daily, hours at a time, right? And so the whole bottom of this pyramid is essentially on fire, causing us to move up this pyramid of pain. So, David Bianco, when he published this, he was spot on, but we didn't listen to him when he published this, right? He told us we had to move up this pyramid, but we haven't listened until now. So we're really going to have to focus on that. So what caused me to start working on this framework? Well, it was the Anthropic red team data that came out. And I don't know if you've seen this report, but they did a great job at looking at 832 threat actors over 12 months. It was basically everybody that was using their model to do malicious activity. So they focused on all of the TTPs that were used. They consolidated those down. They created this heat map of all of those TTPs and what were used more commonly than others. And so when I dug into this data, I sat there and I was like, wow, this really blows everything that we're doing right now out of the water. We cannot protect against this with what we're using today. We have to get ahead of this and think about this differently, right? And so, that caused me to have a caffeine-fueled night. I probably started at 9 o'clock at night once my daughter went to bed, and it was probably about 6 or 7 the next morning when I realized, how far I had gotten, and ended up calling some people in my company saying, hey, I know that I just spent a whole night on this, but I really think it's a good idea. Can you sanity check me? Like, am I crazy? Is it just caffeine? And so, really stepped through this, and they said, you know what, this makes sense. We think we can build it. Let's move forward. But the first question that I got asked was, well, why can't a regular sim fix this? Why can't we just bolt this onto your normal sim? Well, that's what most of the companies are doing, right? They're just bolting AI on top of their, platform that they already have, and it's not fixing the problem. So it's not a product issue, it's an architectural issue. You have to get closer to the source to be able to detect on those true behaviors in those TTPs. Once you get to the sim level, it's already too late, right? And so we'll walk through why that's the case. All right, so APEX stands for Adversarial Pattern Extraction and Correlation. Essentially, it's building blocks, right? And I built this, think about them as pixels on a screen. So every TTP is a pixel. If you get enough of them that are clustered together, you get a better visual of what you're going to see, right? A better picture. So we're looking at the adversaries, we're looking at their behaviors, we are looking at the patterns that are coming into play. So that's, the signals that are being clustered. The extraction piece, if you're an OCSF person, don't kill me when I say this, you don't have to normalize your data. You can do it with raw data, right? You don't have to normalize it. And we'll step through why that's the case with this one. You can use OCSF, so if you are you do normalize your data, you're still able to use that with this framework as well. We just chose for the POV not to. And then it's that cross correlation. So once you do get those signals that fire, or if we rule chain, which I'll show you in a second, you can do the cross correlation among the entities. You can still use IOCs. They're not dead. They're just demoted for the moment, right? And so that cross correlation really puts all this together. So that is APEX. So I talked about attack techniques, and that's the foundation of why this matters. So you still have to have the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Think of each one of those TTPs as a signal, as a building block in this framework. And then you can chain those together. So, it's not necessarily rule chaining, but it's TTP chaining on those behaviors. So think about, one entity, one person, one, blip in your system, and you have a bunch of those signals that are firing on that individual entity, then they are clustered, right? And so that's going to fire. You can set the criticality level, you can set the time frame of what you want those to fire within, and then that's going to fire a detection for your team. So this is an example of that TTP chaining. So each of the TTPs being a signal, you can write, what are typically considered detections. We call them chains. You don't have to, though. You can still cluster on that activity. But this gives you a really high fidelity way to detect in your environment. And so, if this happens, you're waking up your entire team, something bad just happened, and you know that it's very high fidelity because it's based on the raw telemetry, the raw logs, and those signals are true. So I mentioned you don't have to chain these together. So one of the things that I'm sure you've all fought against is that MITRE ATT&CK framework, the coverage that you have to have for that, how many thousands of detections and possibilities to cover one of those little blocks, right? Well, this blows that out of the water. You don't have to have every detection written for every possibility in every scenario. If you're using those true TTPs as signals and you're using the cluster plus the time frame, and it's firing based off that, based off the entity that it's attacking, you will still get an alert. You will still get a signal and a detection that fires. Your team will see that, and you're able to go back through it and get a true positive alert. So you can, if you're one of those people that love to write detections, you can still write these behavioral chains. If you need custom for your environment, you can still customize this to whatever tool set you have, or whatever your scenario is, but you don't have to. You're still going to get those signals that fire based on the clusters. So you have two paths. And again, you don't have to normalize this data. You can use OCSF, or you don't have to. You can use it with the raw telemetry. So the architecture, we'll step through this for a second. One of the biggest pieces of why this works so well is because you own the telemetry that you're putting this on top of. So you know, obviously I work for Cribl. We're using Cribl as the framework for this and the products that we have. But you don't have to. As long as you have the telemetry and own the telemetry, you're able to sit this on top of whatever you own. Those signal queries, so those again are the little pixels, those TTPs are building blocks. Then you have the signal data set. This is where you set that criticality level. You can give it a risk score, you can set a time frame, and then that's when those behavioral chains will fire if you want to use behavioral chains. And if not, it's still going to fire. And the magic is that you're going to get an analyst brief. You're not just getting some random alert. You're getting an entire agentic workflow that, you know, goes back and baselines all of this. This is what the architecture looks like on Cribl apps. So you can see here that we used Edge and Stream. We used Lakehouse Engine. Our signal data set sits on top of our infrastructure. And then Cribl Search is used to do the behavioral change. So if you're not familiar with Cribl's app platform, it's a new platform that we have. Anybody can use it. You can build any app you want on top of our telemetry. So for example, we built this on top of that app platform. My team also built a threat intelligence platform, a TIP, on top of this app platform. So there are a lot of possibilities that you can do with this. And so if you're interested, you can go talk to the Cribl booth, which is just a few over. But this is how we built the POV when we're looking through this. You know, when I talked to the engineer, we went through several iterations to see if this would actually work. We had to finagle a few things and you know, rethink a couple of things, but we finally landed on this, and it worked. So when we think about behavioral chains, so I took that Anthropic data set, you know, which had a whole lot of data and all the TTPs and the risks in there. So Anthropic used what they call an Aries score. And so they were able to, if you look at the actual white paper, you'll be able to go through it and see how they, you know, how they assess risk to each of these scores, but it was basic, or each of these TTPs, but it was commodity, high risk, and then their tier 3, which is like 100%, you know, full bad, and you know, you're waking up everybody in sight, right? So I took all of their data, plugged it in, said, all right, let's write 23 detections just as a initial set to walk through and use in our proof of concept. And so I built 23 behavioral chains based on all of the 14 domains in MITRE ATT&CK. And I'm not going to share all of them with you because they wouldn't fit on a screen, but here's what that kind of looks like, right? So each one of these has TTPs or signals that are in that chain. It assesses a severity and then a window in time which you would want to see those correlated. So for this to work, all of those have to hit, that top one, within a 60-minute window on a single entity, and that will fire the alert. So I went through and built 23 of these, and we plugged them in. So we built the proof of concept, so the app on top of Cribl's platform. And it worked. And we were so excited when we got that first alert that fired, when we saw the signals. We had, false positives and true positives. And even if the signal fired and it wasn't actionable, it wasn't enough to fire that alert or detection, it was still valuable for threat hunting, right? And so a lot of those signals, even if we weren't, waking up the team and they weren't doing a lot of response on that, they were still able to go through and do some threat hunting and find some actionable things for the team to look at. So we were really excited. So with this, like I said, one of the pieces of magic with all of this is that the analyst receives a brief. It's looking at, all of the things that are up here, that 30-day behavioral baseline. It's looking at threat intelligence for cross-correlation. It's looking at peer group deviation. So is this not only acceptable for this person or entity, is it acceptable across their peer group? Would that be an expected behavior? And then the analyst under 90 seconds receives this alert, and they're able to immediately say, yes or no, this is actionable, we need to triage this and move forward. So that was the fun piece of this. So what now? What happens? You don't have this in your environment. What can you do? Well, here are 3 things that you're able to do now. 1, measure correctly. Stop thinking about MITRE ATT&CK in rule coverage. Think about it in behavioral coverage and how you can move up that pyramid of pain. Instrument correctly. You have to have the telemetry for behavioral detections. You have to have that raw data and that full process telemetry to be able to do this effectively, right? A lot of times when we're normalizing data, we're over-engineering it so far that you're not getting all of the pieces of the puzzle by the time it hits your sim. So you need that full process telemetry. And then the last one is you have to have that continuous loop. So that feedback loop, it doesn't work when you're doing it within a sim. You have to do it within the data. And so those are the 3 things that we need to make this happen. So the technology exists, the architecture was defined, the detection library is easily built. I did the 23, but there are so many more that we can build. So what's next for Apex? Well, this was just the start, quite frankly, and my team is proving the value out every single day. We're continuing to build and iterate. I can't tell you if this is going to become a product or not, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be out there, even if I open source it, right, so that everybody can use it. But this framework, again, is something that I want all of you to be able to take away and start building within your pipelines. So in closing, because I'm right on time, I think, thank you to everybody who supported me through this, all of my caffeine-fueled nights, and all of my questions and whether or not this is going to work and how we make it better. Thanks to, several people in the room, wonderful boyfriend, Marvar partners, Nebulox in the room today. So really appreciate all of your support. Of course, all of my peers at Cribl. So appreciate everything. If you want to read the full white paper, there's the QR code, or if you hate QR codes, I did put the URL up there. So you can do that. And then contact me. If you have questions, comments, I would love to hear from you, get some feedback on what you think. Let's make this industry better together, and let's keep iterating. So thank you.